Vaccines have been a really hot topic lately. Every time you get online, you're bombarded with articles, social media posts, and propaganda. All of this recent attention to vaccines seems to be so mixed. With so much conflicting information, how is a parent supposed to know what is right for their child? Have we as a society forgotten what was happening to children before vaccinations? Are the stories true about vaccines causing an uprising in autism? What should we believe and what shouldn't we? As a mom and a healthcare education major, I have done extensive research on the topic. Today I'm going to try to convince you why you should vaccinate your children. Most of us are too young to remember diseases like smallpox because it's been wiped out. We don't remember the hundreds of children that died every year of whooping cough. We don't remember the Americans infected every year with rubella, measles, and polio. We don't remember these horrible outbreaks because of vaccines. I'm going to be addressing what it was like before vaccines, the effect vaccines have made, the devastating effects if we stop vaccinating, and controversial concerns about vaccines. Here are a few examples of some common diseases before vaccinations. According to the Center for Disease Control, before there was a vaccine, more than 15,000 Americans died from diphtheria in 1921. Only one case of diphtheria has been reported to the CDC since 2004. The Center for Disease Control also reports that between 1964 and 1965, more than 12.5 million Americans were infected with rubella. This outbreak killed 2,000 infants and caused 11,000 miscarriages. These outbreaks have ceased because of vaccines created for them. Millions of lives have been saved because of vaccines. Without vaccinations, our nation would look very different today. So how have things changed? Here is an example of the decline in disease since the main vaccines were implemented. In the American Medical Association's study that looked at trends back to 1900, it was concluded that the case of 9 of the major illnesses, hospitalizations, and death rates have declined more than 90%. Smallpox, diphtheria, and polio have been removed as a threat completely with vaccinations. This is a huge win for medicine. So, if we've had such success with vaccines, why do we still need them? With all of the anti-vaccine hype, we're starting to see a decline in children being vaccinated. If we continue on this decline in immunization rates, we will start to see the incline in diseases that we once thought we were free of. For example, according to Public Health in California in 2010, there were more cases of whooping cough than any year since the vaccine was made available in the 1940s. The population most affected by this outbreak were infants that were too young to be vaccinated. This resulted in 10 infant deaths from whooping cough. If the fears of vaccines continue to spread, we will see more cases like this. According to Public Health, we have what is known as a herd immunity. This is where the majority of people are immunized, which keeps epidemics from being able to infest the population. When the majority is resistant to a disease, then there is not room for an epidemic. This helps protect the unimmunized minority. The unimmunized minority is the small percentage of population that cannot be immunized. This includes pregnant women, infants, the elderly, and those with a weakened immune system. Due to international travel, we as a nation are still vulnerable to outbreaks that are common among certain third world countries. Polio, for example, is not something that we see anymore in the United States. Polio is, however, still an issue in some other countries, such as Cameroon, where there are 5 cases reported in 2014 to the CDC. If we stop vaccinating, it will not take long before we start to see these outbreaks in the United States. But this is not just a third world problem. In 2015, there have been more than 1,700 cases of measles reported in Germany. If we as a nation remain vaccinated to these preventable diseases, then we are helping to protect ourselves and our children. The biggest issue with not vaccinating is that many of the illnesses that are avoidable with a simple injection are not treatable if contracted. According to Dr. Robert Sears, certain diseases that can be vaccinated against do not respond well to treatment if contracted. These include chickenpox, tetanus, Hep A, and the flu. Other diseases are not treatable at all with today's medicine once contracted, such as polio, mumps, hepatitis A, and a few others. Let's talk about the concerns. This is where social media scares come into play. You see scary images on Facebook of baby dolls with massive amounts of needles in them. You hear about children catching autism from vaccines. Well, how valid are these claims? Is there any science to back it up? Let's talk about where the rumor started. In 1998, Andrew Wakefield published a report that claimed that the MMR vaccine was linked to autism. According to CNN, not only was the publication retracted, but an investigation done by the British Medical Journal concluded that the study misrepresented or altered medical history for the 12 children involved. Britain has since stripped Wakefield of his medical license. The CDC provides a list of all possible side effects for every vaccine on its website. The most common reactions include low-grade fever, redness, fever, swelling at the injection site, vomiting, fuzziness. There's only 1 in 1,000 doses where there may be a severe allergic reaction. You can now see why vaccines are so important. So to wrap things up, I've given you a little bit of history of vaccines, shown you the impact that they've had on society, explained why we should keep vaccinating, and debunk the autism myth. It is so important that as a population, we are educated on vaccines. We need to understand why vaccines are such an amazing development in science and medicine. We need to understand the risk of what will happen if we continue on this anti-vaccine trend. The millions of lives that have been saved over the last half century from diseases that once wiped out entire populations must be considered. It is so important that parents work with their pediatricians to determine what is best for their child. A pediatrician should be open to explain why these vaccines are important, not only to your family, but to the population as a whole. The devastation that was caused by these now preventable diseases must be remembered. If we as a population do not listen to the science behind vaccines, we will once again see the kind of devastation that we thought to be wiped out. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
So, all the vaccines, so kids get a lot of vaccines. Is it okay to have them done like several at a time, or do you space them out?
I think that's a great question, and when my daughter was young, that's definitely something I talked about with my pediatrician. That's something parents should talk about with their pediatrician, but we opted to do less vaccines at one time and space them out, even if we had to come back to the doctor more. So it may not have been as convenient, but it's what we thought was best for my daughter. Any other questions?
How many can you get at one time?
That is a great question that you should ask your pediatrician. Again, my pediatrician would not give more than 2 vaccines at one